Imagine booking a dream vacation, a luxury cruise with live concerts from your favorite artists, sun-soaked days on the open sea, and unforgettable nights of music and community. Now imagine watching it all sink overnight after a wave of artists suddenly pulled out. That's exactly what happened to Soulshine at Sea 3, a music cruise headlined by Michael Franti Spearhead, which was supposed to sail from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico this November. The event had been completely sold out since late 2024, with fans counting down for nearly a year. But in mid-August 2025, everything came crashing down when artist after artist withdrew from the lineup, forcing organizers to cancel the cruise entirely. For fans who had already paid and planned their trip, the news felt like a gut punch. For the music industry, it became another messy example of how offstage controversies can derail major events in an instant. So, what exactly went wrong? It started when several performers scheduled for the cruise, including Dispatch, Maggie Rose, Hirie, and Liz Vice, suddenly announced they were backing out. These weren't minor names. They were central to the festival lineup and key to the diverse community of fans Soulshine had built in its first 2 successful voyages. Once the withdrawals piled up, the event no longer looked viable. Promoter Sixth Man, known for organizing themed music cruises, made the tough call to pull the plug, releasing a statement. In light of recent events, the Soulshine at Sea with Michael Franti event, scheduled for November 4th to 8th, 2025, is canceled. For an event that had once been billed as a sold-out celebration at sea, the abrupt ending shocked both fans and industry insiders. The controversy traces back to public allegations of misconduct in the music world. Earlier in August, singer-songwriter Victoria Canal shared a deeply personal Instagram post where she described being groomed and abused by a much older, powerful man in the industry when she was just 19. While she did not name anyone directly, her words carried weight, detailing how the experience affected her career, relationships, and mental health for years. Canal wrote about manipulation, isolation, and the power imbalance she felt during that relationship. The timing of her post coincided with the Soulshine cruise buildup, and as other artists on the lineup became aware of the claims, they began to step away in solidarity. Their departures signaled that this was no longer just a music festival. It was now a focal point for an unfolding and very serious controversy. Maggie Rose, one of the artists on the bill, explained her decision openly. There were some allegations made by a peer of mine about another artist on the lineup, and I want to stand in solidarity with her. Dispatch echoed similar feelings, noting in their public statement that they had been made aware of deeply concerning public allegations, and therefore chose to withdraw. Hirie and Liz Vice followed, citing comparable reasons. This domino effect left organizers with no choice but to cancel, since the artist exodus meant the cruise no longer represented the safe, celebratory spirit that had defined its earlier editions. Fans who had followed these performers for years largely understood the decisions, but many were left wondering how something that had promised joy and unity could unravel so quickly. Into this storm stepped Michael Franti, the headliner and namesake of the event. After speculation mounted, he issued a statement of his own, acknowledging a past extramarital affair with a younger artist who had toured with him years ago. He described it as a regrettable mistake that broke his marriage vows and hurt his wife. However, Franti denied any claims of abuse, asserting that the relationship had been consensual and based on mutual attraction. Still, he admitted that the power imbalance was real. As the headliner, older and more established, he should have recognized the responsibility that came with his position. Franti's attempt to address the issue head-on brought mixed responses, with some appreciating his candor and others questioning the timing and context of his statement. This is where the story becomes complex. On one side, you have an artist openly apologizing for poor decisions in his personal life, while firmly rejecting any characterization of the relationship as abusive. On the other, you have a younger musician's emotional testimony about years of impact from what she described as grooming and manipulation. In between are the fans, caught in the middle of conflicting narratives, and the fellow artists who decided the safest course was to withdraw from the event entirely. It illustrates just how fragile trust can be in the entertainment industry. An event designed to bring people together can quickly fracture when questions of ethics and accountability surface. For the cruise organizers' sixth man, this controversy meant an immediate pivot. The company quickly announced that while Soulshine at Sea 3 was canceled, they were actively working to create a replacement event set for the exact same dates, November 4th to 8th, 2025. Ticket holders were promised refunds or credits, and more details were teased as forthcoming. For many fans, this was a small silver lining, but it also raised a bigger question. Could any new event really replace what Soulshine was meant to be? The brand wasn't just about music. It was about a shared philosophy of positivity, unity, and community, values that now feel complicated in light of the circumstances. Looking back, Soulshine at Sea was more than just a party cruise. For two previous editions, it had built a reputation for intimate performances, artist-fan interactions, and a vibe that set it apart from larger festivals. Michael Franti's name was closely tied to that identity, and fans came not just for the music, but for the sense of belonging. That's why this cancellation feels different from a typical tour date being scrapped. This wasn't just a missed concert. It was an entire community event lost, with fans, artists, and crews all left disappointed. The emotional connection people had to the brand makes the fallout sting that much more. At the same time, the larger music industry is no stranger to controversy reshaping events. From festival cancellations due to safety issues to artists being dropped from lineups after public allegations, we've seen over and over how quickly the narrative around live music can shift. In some ways, Soulshine at Sea 3 is the latest example of how transparency, accountability, and reputation management are now central to live entertainment. With social media amplifying every story, artists and promoters have to act quickly and decisively when controversies emerge. In this case, canceling the cruise was not only about logistics, but also about sending a message that the organizers valued trust and safety over simply pushing forward. One lesson fans and industry watchers might take from this situation is just how interconnected artists have become. It wasn't just one person pulling out that caused the cancellation. It was the collective decision of multiple respected acts who stood together. Their solidarity amplified the seriousness of the issue and underscored how much weight artists' choices can carry in shaping public perception. When fans saw Dispatch, Maggie Rose, and others stepping away, it wasn't difficult to connect the dots and realize this was no longer an event that could operate as planned. That solidarity also sends a message to the wider industry. Musicians are increasingly willing to take a stand, even when it means sacrificing exposure, income, or fan opportunities. For Michael Franti himself, this moment may prove to be a turning point. Known for his upbeat, socially conscious songs and community-oriented persona, his image has long been tied to positivity and inclusivity. Now, he finds himself in a very different spotlight, one where he's forced to defend his personal choices and how they intersected with his professional life. Whether fans continue to support him or not will likely depend on how he handles the fallout from here. Through transparency, accountability, and perhaps most importantly, by listening to those who felt harmed. Reputation in music can be rebuilt, but it requires time, sincerity, and action beyond words. Meanwhile, for Victoria Canal, this moment marks a shift as well. Speaking out about experiences of grooming and abuse is never easy, especially in an industry where power dynamics can silence younger voices. By sharing her story publicly, even without naming names, she sparked a conversation that reverberated beyond her own career and impacted an entire music cruise. The support she received from fellow artists shows that her courage resonated and that more musicians are willing to challenge the culture of silence that has long surrounded such issues. In that sense, the cancellation of Soulshine at Sea isn't just about one event. It's part of a larger cultural reckoning in the music industry. So where does this leave the fans? For those who bought tickets, it's a mix of frustration and understanding. On one hand, people had made travel plans, taken time off work, and invested in an experience they won't get to enjoy. On the other, many also understand why the cruise couldn't continue under the cloud of controversy. As Sixth Man prepares to launch a replacement event, the real question will be whether fans feel comfortable buying in again. Trust, once shaken, can take time to rebuild, but perhaps the broader legacy of this moment will be less about one canceled cruise and more about the music community showing that integrity and solidarity matter as much as the show itself.